There's an interesting news update here related to MI6 in the UK. They're saying that they are battling US President Donald Trump to stop him. They're attempting to stop Donald Trump from releasing classified documents related to this alleged Russian meddling that the intelligence agencies have tried to push. And it's odd that, well, I guess maybe it's expected that the deep state does not want this information to come out, their findings, and maybe there are other details of the investigation and things that the deep state, MI6, the CIA, and the FBI here in the U.S. Have not wanted to disclose. One person is asking, and actually they bring up a comment from some Trump allies who are fighting back as well, demanding transparency and asking why Britain would oppose the move unless it had something to hide. So one obvious potential tie-in here goes back to Trump saying that his campaign had been spied on and that Obama helped authorize this, but there might have been a role from other intelligence agencies. Christopher Steele also involved with these allegations of Obama illegally spying on President Trump, the Trump campaign. So, could the release of these documents, could it reveal that this probe into so-called Russian meddling could it actually expose other foreign nations like the UK, so-called allies like the UK, who were actually spying on President Trump to find dirt on him, to try to find dirt on him. And as a result, I'm sure they would be angry to be exposed, that this would further expose just how far the deep state is going in using these globalist means to shut down any opposition. I've seen a few commenters relate it back to those earlier criticisms from Trump against these intelligence agencies, and again, the spying allegations as well. So why does MI6 not want this information released? His article just posted the last day or so. I'll go through the info that they posted here. They give some context again, tying back to the Mueller investigation. They say that MI6 chiefs are secretly battling Donald Trump to stop him publishing classified information linked to they say, Russian election meddling investigation. So the UK is warning that the US president they say that the president would undermine intelligence gathering if he releases pages of an FBI application to wiretap one of his former campaign advisors. So it does tie in specifically with these wiretapping, the wiretapping against the Trump campaign. So they are fighting back, allies of Trump demanding transparency, asking why does Britain not want to release these documents unless they have something to hide? Forces the spotlight on whether the UK played a role in the FBI's investigation launched before the 2016 presidential election into Trump campaign ties to the Kremlin. Possibly a potential workaround for the UK, or for the FBI rather, that basically the deep state agencies here in the US had it out for the Trump campaign basically, but they knew that this would be considered to be illegal, that it would be illegal to spy for an American intelligence agency to spy on one of its own citizens, including President Trump. So possibly they're using other intelligence agencies like MI6 to possibly find some kind of gray area in there legally on behalf of the FBI. That's another possible reason behind MI6's involvement. And just how involved have they been in the investigation, I guess, is another question that Donald Trump would like the public to have more info on with the release of these documents, it seems. So the Telegraph is talking about this just in the last day or so, and they've also added that they've talked to more than a dozen UK and US officials, including in American intelligence, who have revealed details about this conflict between President Trump and MI6 in the UK, saying British spy chiefs have, quote, genuine concern, in their words. British spy chiefs saying genuine concern about, they have genuine concern about sources being exposed if classified parts of the wiretap request were made public, according to figures familiar with discussions. So they're talking about specific individuals maybe being exposed, but if these are only documents relating, if the scope of what these documents details is related only to this U.S. election meddling, then the sources being exposed would be in the U.S. So it's not as if it's in some other country where they're undercover. I mean, if MI6 has undercover agents working in the U.S. and they're exposed, I guess so what? I'm sure that would be a lot of people's response. Well, why is that an excuse not to release the documents? How can they use that as an excuse, basically? Another quote, they say it boils down to the exposure of people, said one U.S. intelligence official, adding, "We don't want to reveal sources and methods. U.S. intelligence shares concerns of the U.K. Another said Britain feared setting a dangerous precedent, which could make people less likely to share information, knowing that it could one day become public." Deemed so politically sensitive, this conflict between the president and the UK is so politically sensitive that staff at the British Embassy in Washington have been barred from discussing it with the journalists. Theresa May already has a testing relationship, they add, with Donald Trump, has also been kept at an arm's length, they're claiming, and is understood to have not raised the issue directly with the US president. About an FBI request to wiretap Carter Page, a former Trump campaign former foreign policy advisor, which was made in October of 2016, the month before the US election. The FBI said it had suspicions that Mr. Page was being targeted for recruitment by Russian government and cited classified intelligence to make its case. They justified this, saying that they had this classified intelligence, and that's why they were illegally spying on the Trump campaign. The agency was granted approval for 90 days of surveillance by a secret court established by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. It was renewed a number of times. Republican allies of Mr. Trump in the U.S. Congress have pounced on the application, claiming the FBI failed to follow due process and presented information in a flawed way. A heavily redacted version of the documents has been released. Some of these documents have been released in redacted form. Mr. Trump wants to declassify 21 more pages from one of the applications. He's announced the move in September, then backtracked, then this month said he was very seriously considering it again. Both Britain and Australia are understood to be opposing the move. Australia and Britain are trying to stop the president from getting these documents released. Memos detailing alleged ties between Mr. Trump and Russia, compiled by Christopher Steele, who's a former MI6 officer, were cited in the application, which could explain some of the British concern. Numerous spokesmen for UK and US government bodies declined to comment. Mr. Page is denied being a foreign agent for Russia. The role comes as UK intelligence agencies are increasingly dragged into a heated and partisan battle in Washington, D.C. over this meddling investigation. Mr. Trump's allies and former advisors are raising questions about the UK's role in the start of the probe, given many of the key figures and meetings were located in Britain. Ex-advisor renews accusations, they say. Papadopoulos, former Trump campaign advisor, has publicly claimed he was targeted by UK spies. Talked about this previously. And he's also demanding transparency in light of that. And finally, they say that Republicans are attempting to prosecute or to protect. Republicans are trying to protect the U.S. president in this investigation, which continues to this day, saying that it was invalid from the start. Probe, now overseen by special counsel Robert Mueller, is looking into whether Trump campaign figures. That's why we know the Mueller investigation some of the wording of this article, obviously, you'll have to take that into consideration. This is coming from a mainstream source, so they're almost implying that this move is to protect the U.S. president, but it's a lot of evidence that the investigation was not valid. There's other issues there that MSN isn't getting into, but they're trying to say that this is just to protect Trump. That's the part of the mainstream spin. But they have claimed that the investigation was invalid from the start, suggesting the investigation was created by shadowy intelligence figures who wanted to thwart Mr. Trump's candidacy from the beginning. They want to cover up some of this information for some reason, likely to cover up the extent of their role in the spying campaign. Will be part of this, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out exactly. Obviously, people would like to see these documents released. Not too many media sources reporting on this conflict. Now, the rest of this article, the language they use is pretty heavily loaded against Donald Trump, saying that, again, this is basically a deflection is what they're trying to claim. But obviously there are a lot of issues here with MI6, and it would be very serious. I don't buy their excuse that they have to protect sources in the U.S., and that's their excuse for not releasing these documents. Let me know what you think. I do have the original article linked in the video description. I'll follow up with any additional details as they come out. I do have a link over to my Patreon account, patreon.com/realityreader, in the video description. Thanks everybody that's donated over there. A couple dollars makes a huge difference even. I have a link to my PayPal in there as well. And again, check out the original article. Tell me what you think. I will follow up with new info. Thanks.